Heartwarming revelation. After my son's passing, 24M exposed an incredible fight against his ex. Michael sat on the edge of his worn-out sofa, staring at an old baseball glove that bore the unmistakable signs of a young boy's dreams. A wave of grief washed over him, filling the room with an aching silence. His heart felt heavy, a familiar burden since that terrible day when he lost Jake, his son, the boy with the brightest smile and the most ambitious dreams of making it to the big leagues. The quiet suburb of Chicago, once a safe haven, now felt like an echo chamber of memories. Laughter that once bounced off the walls was replaced with whispers of condolence and bowls of casserole left on his doorstep. Days blurred into nights, and Michael struggled, balancing single parenthood with the darkness creeping into his soul. The neighborhood rallied around him, bringing meals and comforting him with words of support. However, every act of kindness felt like a reminder of his loss. He wanted to crawl into Jake's old bedroom, where the posters still hung, and curl up in the space their family once thrived in. The community's love wrapped around him, yet he felt so isolated, so haunted by the absence of his son. Each day, he powered through a mask of gratitude, but inside, he felt broken. Just when he thought life couldn't become more complicated, a letter arrived. It contained news that turned his world upside down. 24 million had been entrusted to Michael, intended for Jake's dreams and aspirations, a life his son would never get to live. As he read the letter, the world around him faded. The money was a burden wrapped in tragedy, binding him to Angela, Jake's estranged mother. His heart raced. Angela had been a ghost in their lives for years, a once shining high school sweetheart turned distant figure. Now, she was back, and the whispers around the neighborhood grew louder. Will they give it to her? Questioned one neighbor at the grocery store, eyeing Michael with pity. I mean, she hasn't even been around, another would reply, their voices trailing off as they caught Michael's eye. Anger bubbled inside him. Who was she to step back into Jake's life, claiming what belonged to him? This money felt like a tether, pulling him into an emotional whirlpool of resentment and conflict. Michael faced a moral dilemma: stake his claim to his son's legacy or confront Angela. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. On an emotional day, the clouds hung low in the Chicago sky, the perfect mirror for his heart. Michael found himself wandering to the park where Jake had spent countless hours, swinging from the monkey bars and dreaming under the sun. It was there, amidst the rustling leaves, that he unexpectedly ran into Angela. The air crackled with tension. Their eyes met, and for a moment, it felt like the universe pressed pause, forcing them to reckon with their shared heartbreak. Michael, she breathed, her voice soft but firm, cutting through the stillness. In that moment, he faced a choice. Would he let the past drown him, or would he explore the possibility of sharing their grief and bringing their lives together for the sake of Jake? A question drifted between them, heavy with unresolved pain. Could they set aside their past grievances and honor the legacy of their beloved son together? The weight of unanswered questions lingered, as Michael realized he stood at the precipice of a new beginning, one that could redefine not just his life, but the heart of their small town. Michael's heart raced as he stood frozen in front of Angela. The air felt electric, thick with memories and unspoken words. How many times had he imagined this moment, imagined the confrontation that could mend what had been broken? But reality was never as simple as he envisioned. Why are you here? He finally managed, his voice a mix of anger and confusion. Anger that she had the audacity to show up at this moment, and confusion over the feelings swirling within him. Angela's brow furrowed. I came to see you, to talk about Jake. Her words hung in the air, sounding so simple, yet laden with the weight of their shared history. He could see the way her eyes glimmered, a reflection of her own pain and regret. Talk. Michael scoffed, bitterness flooding his tone. You left. You disappeared when he needed you the most. Now that there's money involved, You want to come back and play the part of the grieving mother? Angela flinched, her expression faltering. I know it's not enough, Michael. I made mistakes. But the money Jake's legacy, maybe it can change something. I want to honor him, too. A gust of wind rustled through the trees, sending leaves dancing. Michael's anger felt like a tempest inside him, yet he noticed the sincerity in her voice. Was there a part of her that truly cared? He took a step back. You think that money can buy back the years you lost? You think it can fill the void? I'm not saying that. She replied, her voice rising. I just want what? He cut her off, the heat of his words spilling over. To ease your conscience? I had to raise our son alone. I've buried him, Angela. I've lived through the worst day of my life, while you just vanished. Tears glistened in her eyes, and for a moment, he almost felt pity. But anger consumed him. The whirlwind of memories crashed over him. Jake's face illuminated with joy as he caught his first baseball. The way he ran into Michael's arms after every little victory. He could hardly bear the thought of her claiming a share of those years now. Can't you see? Angela breathed deeply. I'm not simply here for the money. I'm here to be part of Jake's legacy in whatever way I can. I don't expect forgiveness. I'm not asking for it. But maybe we can figure this out together. Michael stood still, grappling with what she had said. Could he really work with her, after everything? A part of him wanted to scream that it was too late for togetherness. Yet, there was another part, a glimmer of hope that wondered if this was the first step toward healing. I can't do this right now, he finally muttered, struggling to maintain his composure. We need to figure out what that money means, what Jake would want. Angela nodded, looking down at her hands. Let us take it one step at a time, she said softly, her voice trembling. For Jake. He sighed heavily, a mixture of resignation and uncertainty. As they stood there, two broken pieces of a larger story, Michael realized that their journey would not only affect them but the entire community that had rallied behind them. Could they transform their shared pain into something meaningful? A vision formed in Michael's mind: funds for kids' sports facilities, scholarships for youth, ways to honor Jake's love of the game. But how would they forge this path together? With a deep breath, he looked into Angela's eyes, searching for a flicker of shared resolve. All right then, he said quietly. The fragile truce hung between them, a fragile web spun from loss, grief, and the faint hope of a new beginning. As they began to talk again, laying the groundwork for what lay ahead, a nagging question remained: could discussions of legacy truly bridge the abyss that had formed between them? What lay ahead would test them both in ways they could never imagine. Michael stood across from Angela, grappling with the weight of their shared history. The sun began to dip behind the trees, casting long shadows across the ground. It felt as if time had frozen, as if the world was holding its breath while they wrestled with emotions neither of them wanted to confront. How do we even begin? He finally asked, breaking the heavy silence. There was a tremor in his voice, but it was laced with determination. If they were going to do this, he needed to set the tone. Angela took a small breath, steadying herself. Maybe we should start with what Jake loved. Baseball. That's a good place. There was a softness in her tone that surprised him. It was almost as if she were trying to bridge the chasm between them with memories of their son. That doesn't fix anything, he replied sharply, but the edge of his voice was less fierce. It occurred to him that perhaps exploring Jake's passion was a step they weren't ready to take. But it's a beginning, she replied, her eyes pleading. Jake loved that sport more than anything. He'd want us to honor it, to honor him through actions. We can create something meaningful. Michael's mind raced. Could baseball truly be the answer? It felt too fragile, too tentative. But as he stared into her hopeful eyes, he felt a stir of something he hadn't expected: curiosity. What do you have in mind? He said, allowing himself to consider her idea. Angela's face lit up, a flicker of life breaking through the heaviness. What if we use the money to build a youth sports center? A place for kids to come together, play, learn, just like Jake did. We could have scholarships in his name too. Imagine how many lives we could touch. It was an ambitious vision, and slowly, Michael could feel the icy grip of anger begin to loosen. And you think the community will accept you? After everything? I don't know, Angela admitted, her voice cracking. But I hope they can see my heart in this. I want to help. For Jake, and maybe even for us. He turned his gaze back to the ground, contemplating her words. She was right, Jake's memory was tied to that game they both loved. The long afternoons in the sun, the laughter, and unfiltered joy of watching him play. But could they really collaborate on something so monumental? Maybe we start small, he suggested cautiously. Perhaps fundraising events at the local park? If we could get the community involved in honoring Jake. Angela nodded vigorously, and he felt the corners of his heart soften slightly. Maybe there was a road ahead, however winding it might be. I can reach out to some old friends, people who played with Jake, he continued. They might want to help organize something. Like a reunion? She asked. Yeah, exactly. Gathering everyone, sharing stories, letting people remember him. We could raise awareness, maybe even funds to set plans in motion. As they chatted about initial ideas, Michael could feel a strange sense of camaraderie starting to blossom, one rooted not in their history as lovers, but in their love for Jake. Each suggestion, each moment of brainstorming began to build a fragile thread linking them closer together, moving away from the grief that had defined their past, but even amidst their newfound purpose, an underlying tension still pulsed in the air. Could collaboration truly mend the deep divides between them? Would they find common ground in their shared loss, or would the weight of their history come crashing back? As they stood together under the fading light, a new question emerged in Michael's mind. What would it take to transform their grief into a lasting legacy for their son? And more importantly, could they truly move forward together, or was this just another fleeting moment of hope in a long battle? The warmth of the sun slipped away, leaving a gentle chill in its wake. Michael shivered slightly, not from the cold, but from the mixed emotions swirling inside him. He had taken the first step toward healing, yet the return to old wounds felt precarious. Let us do it, he said suddenly, his voice stronger now. Let us plan the fundraising event. Angela's eyes widened. A smile broke through her earlier apprehension. Really? Yes, he nodded. The determination in his voice surprised even him. For Jake. He deserves this. But we'll need a team. We can't do it alone. Excitement bubbled in her, and it was infectious. I'll call the parents of the kids he played with. She exclaimed, nearly bouncing on her feet. And I can ask the local businesses to sponsor us. Everyone loved Jake. Right, he replied, his heartbeat quickening as they began to brainstorm. The tension that hung over them started to dissolve. For the first time since they lost Jake, he felt a flicker of hope. They mapped out ideas, scribbling notes in a battered notebook that both had once used for planning their son's birthday parties. Each time they exchanged glances, their mutual grief seemed to ebb, replaced by a shared purpose. The thought of their son made the heavy memories retreat back into the shadows, if only for a while. Hours passed as they outlined a timeline, generating ideas, and expanding on dreams. Michael suggested bringing in coaches for the kids, and Angela jumped in with the idea to include a community cookout as a fundraiser, drawing on the warmth of shared memories and laughter. It was an approach that felt as safe as it was inviting. Then Angela paused, her brow knitted. What about the message we want to send? How do we capture Jake's spirit? Michael stayed silent for a moment, the question hanging in the air. He remembered Jake's open smile, the way he made friends wherever he went. It's about unity, he finally replied. It's about building a place where kids can feel safe, just like Jake did. Angela nodded. Togetherness, support, we will make every kid know they matter. In that moment, a strong connection flickered between them, woven with shared vision and a glimpse of fading pain. But the past still lurked in the corners of their minds. As they began to pack up for the day, Michael caught sight of a cardinal flitting through the branches above. Hey, look, he said, pointing. That's a sign, right? Jake always loved birds. Angela laughed lightly, her joy spilling over. Or just a bird being a bird, she teased, but her smile said otherwise. Walking back toward their parked car, a sense of camaraderie hung in the air, yet doubt still teased at Michael's mind. Could they really navigate through their shared grief and build something lasting? The shadows of the past still cast long ahead. Once back home, he sat in silence on his porch. Countless thoughts clawed at him. Memories not just of joy, but of pain, seemed to play on a loop. Would this newfound purpose actually draw them closer, or would it lay bare the wounds they both had tried so hard to keep hidden? With a sigh, he reached for his phone, ready to message Angela. She was right. They needed a plan. But deep down, an unsettling question lingered. What would happen when the emotions surfaced again? As he stared into the night, the clamor of what-ifs filled his mind. Fear flickered in his heart. But one thing was clear, they would either rise to the challenge or be engulfed by the past. What would the first steps of this journey reveal? And would they both be strong enough to face it together? The next morning, the sun rose with a soft pink hue, and Michael felt a sense of renewed energy pulse through him. It was time to put their plans into action. He grabbed a cup of coffee and sat at the kitchen table, brainstorming more ideas. The notebook sat open before him, a blank canvas waiting to be filled. That he thought about the community, their neighbors, friends, and the parents he barely talked to since Jake passed. They had been so supportive. Perhaps they would be willing to help out more than he anticipated. A spark of determination ignited within him. They could create something beautiful, something that would honor Jake in a meaningful way. After a shower, Michael found Angela already in the living room, scrolling through her phone. Her brow furrowed slightly as she typed, but when she noticed him, her face brightened. "I've reached out to a few parents and they're excited to help," she said, her enthusiasm infectious. "We might even have a local band interested in playing at the cookout." He felt a rush of warmth at her words. "That's amazing." It set just the right tone. People love music and food, right? It brings everyone together. Exactly. Angela clapped her hands. "And if we can get the kids involved in planning games and activities, they feel included too." "Let us do it," he said, slicing through his earlier doubts. They began planning decorations, menu options, and game ideas. Laughter punctuated their conversations as they reminisced about Jake's favorite foods and games. It felt like he was right there with them, cheering them on, but as excitement surged, moments of doubt flitted through Michael's mind. What if they were just masking their grief? They needed to address the sadness rather than sweep it under the rug. They had to honor their feelings while also embracing this new journey. "Angela," he said carefully, "how do you feel about talking to some of the families of kids who are struggling? Maybe we can pool our stories into something that resonates with everyone." Her eyes widened slightly. "You mean share our experiences?" "Maybe it's time," he replied quietly. "Jake's story is one of hope, but it's also one of love and loss. If we're going to do this, we can't forget why we're doing it. We need to connect with others who understand." Angela nodded slowly, her excitement slightly tempered by the weight of the suggestion. "You're right. We can invite them to help plan the event, share their stories if they choose." As they spoke, the doorbell rang, breaking the moment. Michael jumped up to answer it, his heart racing. On the doorstep stood the neighbors from down the street, Sarah and Tom, holding a plate of cookies, their faces awash with concern and support. "We heard you're planning something," Sarah started, her voice a gentle balm. "We want to help. Whatever you need." Michael's throat tightened. It was overwhelming to see their support manifest so openly. They hadn't just kept their distance out of fear of intruding on their grief, they were ready to walk beside them. "Thank you," he managed to say, his voice thick with emotion. "This means a lot. We were just talking about gathering everyone to make this a real community effort." Excited chatter flowed between them as they welcomed Sarah and Tom into their home, the feeling of connection growing stronger. Ideas sparked, laughter echoed, and for a moment, the past felt less daunting. But as Michael stood in the kitchen, surrounded by people who wanted to help, the reality of sharing his pain loomed larger. Would opening up bring them healing or expose deeper wounds? In the back of his mind, the question churned, a steady whisper of worry. Was it even possible to transform their hurt into something impactful? With another wave of determination, he took a deep breath. He decommitted to this journey, but it was clear he wasn't the only one who had a story to tell. As they continued to brainstorm with Sarah and Tom, an idea began to form a way to honor Jake, not only with the event but with a message that could ripple through their community. Would expressing their grief spark profound connections and foster healing? Michael gave himself a silent nod of resilience. Maybe, just maybe, they were building the bridge toward hope. What awaited them on the other side? The afternoon sun streamed through the windows, brightening the kitchen where they had gathered. The initial wave of excitement from Sarah and Tom had ignited something in the air. Michael could feel a community coming alive around him. "Okay, let's dive in," Angela said, her voice full of fervor. "What if we set up a booth where families can share memories of their kids? Just a simple message board where they can leave notes, photos, whatever they want." "That's brilliant." Sarah beamed. "It would be a beautiful way to remember them, to keep their spirits alive in this community." Tom nodded enthusiastically. "And we could encourage them to share not just the good times, but also the challenges they faced. It's important to show the journey, the ups and downs. It could really help others feel less alone." Michael's heart swelled slightly as they bounced ideas off one another. He could see how talking about their experiences might bridge gaps in the community, moving past the awkwardness that often surrounded grief. Through conversations, they could forge connections that would honor Jake's memory. As they moved from one idea to another, Michael's resolve strengthened. This grew beyond just a cookout. It was transforming into an event that could kindle understanding and foster healing. Someone in the group brought up an art table for the kids, where they could create pieces that represented how they felt about loss, joy, and everything in between. Children were so honest, he thought. Their art could tell stories that words sometimes struggled to express. "I love it," Angela said, her eyes shining. "Art is such a sweet way for them to share feelings." Laughter filled the kitchen as they continued to brainstorm, peppered with heartfelt moments of reflection. Yet, in the back of Michael's mind, lingering doubts still tugged at him. Would they all be able to handle this? Would sharing their stories only bring forth more pain? "Hey, can we grab that binder?" Angela's voice cut through his thoughts. "I want to write down all these ideas before we forget." He nodded, already scanning the room for it. But he couldn't shake the worry, the feeling that confronting shared grief could unearth something too painful to bear. Would they all be ready for that? As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, Angela took a deep breath. She looked around, her eyes landing on him. "You okay?" He managed a smile, though it didn't quite reach his eyes. "Yeah, just thinking. It's a lot, you know." Tom leaned in with understanding. "It is. But know that you're not alone in this. We're in this together, every step of the way." That was it. The reassurance he needed. He nodded slowly, taking the weight of their support into his heart. Maybe this was it. This was how they would tackle the grief together, not just as a family but as a community. With renewed energy, they dove back into planning, their laughter echoing off the walls, intertwining with memories of Jake. It felt as if he was somewhere in the mix, urging them on. But as they stepped deeper into the logistics of the event, a new thought hit Michael like a wave. What if they recorded the stories they gathered? They could compile them into a book, a collection of memories, struggles, and triumphs that would resonate far beyond their community. Could sharing those stories help others who might be feeling lost? His heart raced at the prospect. What if we create a book filled with the stories? Michael proposed, excitement bubbling within him. A way for people to see the beauty in our experiences and to inspire others who might not know how to cope. All heads turned towards him. Silence filled the room for a moment before Angela's eyes sparkled with delight. That's exactly it. The stories could reach parents who feel alone in their pain. The energy shifted, excitement electrifying the air again. But amid the buzz, Michael felt a tinge of uncertainty. Could their stories really help others? Would reliving their grief be worth it? He pushed that thought aside. This wasn't just about grieving anymore. It was about growing, healing, and offering a path to hope. As the evening wore on, they were all lost in their plans, the kitchen filled with notes and sketches. But underneath the surface of all the laughter was a question that hung heavy yet hopeful in the air. Would they find the courage to share their pain and turn it into something beautiful together? The door swung open, bringing in a rush of cool evening air. A new face appeared, and a ripple of curiosity passed through the group. Just who could that be? A tall figure stood in the doorway, silhouetted against the fading light. The new arrival's face was bathed in a soft glow, making it hard to distinguish features, but there was an unmistakable weariness in their posture. As they stepped forward, the faces in the kitchen turned to meet the unfamiliar gaze. Hi, I'm Jenna," the woman said, her voice breaking slightly. "I saw the lights on and I'm sorry to barge in, but I thought I might find someone here who could help." Michael felt a jolt of recognition. Jenna was the mother of a boy who had passed away a few months back, someone he had seen briefly at the last support group meeting. She looked fragile, like a bird that had flown too far from its nest. Angela was the first to respond, her tone warm and welcoming. "Of course. Please, come in. We're just brainstorming for a community event in honor of the kids." Jenna's eyes widened, and she stepped further inside, taking a quick glance around the kitchen as if searching for something to anchor her amidst the swirling emotions. I didn't know about the event. I've been kind of avoiding everyone." Michael could empathize. Grief often felt like a heavy shroud that separated you from the rest of the world. "It's tough, isn't it?" he said gently, trying to break through the wall he sensed around her. "What brought you here tonight?" "I was thinking about what you said in the group about sharing stories," she whispered, her voice faltering. "I have a story. A hard one. And I want to share it, but I don't know how." Tom quickly gestured towards the chairs at the table. "Why don't you sit with us? We're all in this together, after all. Each of us has our own memories and stories to tell." Jenna nodded hesitantly, taking a seat. Her posture slowly relaxed, and she glanced down at her hands, taking a deep breath. "My son, Charlie, fought hard. He had a rare illness. For years, we fought together. It changed everything. But I wanted to believe he would pull through. The doctors told us to be prepared, yet every time they gave us hope it felt like it wasn't real until the end." A hush fell over the kitchen, the air thick with shared understanding. Michael could see tears welling in Angela's eyes, echoing the emotions sweeping through the room. Tom reached out, squeezing Jenna's hand gently, a signal that she wasn't alone. "And what you shared today means something," Jenna continued, her voice flickering with newfound strength. "It's important that other parents know they're not alone. It's a battle. Sharing how we felt might help others feel seen, even if just for a moment." The gravity of her words wrapped around Michael, like a quilt of shared sorrow. He could feel the weight of their grief mixing with this newfound purpose. What they were doing was evolving, gradually unfurling into something bigger than they had imagined. "That's exactly it," Sarah interjected, her voice thick with emotion. "Every story matters. You're so brave for wanting to share, Jenna." As the evening wore on, Jenna shared her story with the group, slowly peeling back layers of her heart. Each word was a step toward healing, not just for her, but for everyone present. They sat there together, souls bared, hearts connecting. Yet, within that sacred space of vulnerability, Michael couldn't shake the feeling of urgency that hung over everything. He leaned forward, caught in the moment. What if we created a section in the book just for the stories of those who fought, like Charlie?" Jenna's eyes shimmered with something akin to hope. "That would mean the world," she breathed. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, light began to flicker within each heart. They were writing their own tales of courage, transforming pain into something tangible. But just then, as if fate had a plan, a distant sound echoed from outside, a siren wailing, piercing the quiet of the night. Do you think that's the sound of another call for help? Tom asked, glancing towards the door. Michael's heart raced. Was the universe pushing them further? What awaited them outside, and how would it impact the stories they were about to weave together? The siren's cry hung in the air, pulling every truth to the surface. Michael's breath quickened. The emotion in the room shifted, anticipation thickening as he glanced at Jenna. Her eyes, usually clouded with sorrow, now glimmered with a flicker of fierce determination. Tom stood up, breaking the spell. We should check it out, he said, pushing his chair back with a scrape. It could be someone in trouble. Maybe we can help. The group exchanged glances of concern and unity. Each person, despite their own burdens, felt drawn to respond. They were all haunted by loss but also fueled by a growing sense of purpose. Angela reached for Jenna's hand, squeezing it tightly. You're not alone in this, she reassured her. We're all here together. Jenna swallowed hard, nodding slowly. Okay, she murmured. I'll come with you. As they stepped outside into the cool night air, Michael felt the weight of their mission settle in his chest. The siren's wail grew softer, but another sound punctuated the night, a child's laughter from somewhere down the street. It was an odd contrast, yet it brought a little warmth, a reminder of innocence amid the chaos surrounding them. The streets were dimly lit, the shadows dancing under the flickering streetlights. They hurried towards the sound, led by instinct and a shared responsibility to connect, to heal. As they turned the corner, the glow from a nearby park became visible, where a small community event unfolded. Families were gathered, food trucks lined up, and laughter filled the air. It was a stark contrast to the heaviness they had carried just moments before. Are we in the right place? Sarah asked, squinting in the hazy light. A figure approached, a man holding a clipboard and wearing a volunteer badge. Hey! Just in time. We're raising money for families battling illness, he said with a wide grin. Would you like to help? We're just getting started with a candlelight vigil. Michael felt the tension in his heart dissolve as he exchanged glances with the others. Slowly, it dawned on them the universe had led them to a gathering of people just like them, united by love and loss. Jenna took a deep breath, pulling the group's focus. This feels right. This is the kind of place where stories are shared, she said, her voice steady. Where pain turns into purpose. Tom nodded, his eyes gleaming with a newfound sense of resolve. We should share our stories, our memories. We can give them a voice. As they moved towards the gathering, Jenna's heart raced. Would she find the courage to speak? Hours ago, she'd been unsure and lost. But now, in this sea of compassion, she felt the heavy weight of her sorrow start to lift just a little. The official at the event welcomed them warmly. We need more hands. We're doing a memory wall for the children. Can you help? Michael instinctively turned to Jenna, knowing this was her moment. What do you think? He asked, gauging her readiness. Her eyes sparkled with a mixture of eagerness and fear. I want to honor Charlie, she said, her voice gaining strength. I want to share who he was and how fiercely he fought. With a sense of determination, Jenna stepped forward, taking the clipboard from the volunteer. She could do this, they could all do this. They could tell their stories, intertwining them with the laughter and love of others. As they began to set up, yet another sound sliced through the comforting chatter. The unmistakable pulse of an ambulance siren cut through the air once more. The group paused, collectively holding their breath, sensing that the night held both hope and trials. Will it ever end? Sarah whispered, her brow furrowed, contemplating the uncertainty that lingered. Jenna's voice rose above the silence, filled with conviction. Maybe it's not about the end, she replied softly. Maybe it's about finding light even in the darkest places. Their hearts swelled at her words, swelling with a mix of hope and determination. What lay ahead was unknown, but they would face it together. But, as they set to work, a distant cry echoed through the night, a voice tinged with desperation. Who was calling out, and would they need more than just emotional readiness to respond? The night air buzzed with an unfamiliar tension as the cry echoed louder. It stirred something deep within the group, igniting a sense of urgency. Jenna felt her heart race, each beat tinged with both fear and an emerging resolve. "We can't just stand here," she said, her voice rising over the lingering comforts of the event. Tom nodded, shifting his weight as he surveyed the darkness. "Maybe it's a child. We need to see." With a quick glance at the others, they formed a small cluster, united by unspoken understanding. As they moved away from the warmth of the vigil, the laughter faded behind them, replaced by the chill of night. The path ahead was dark, the streetlights struggling to pierce through the thick shadows. Michael felt a knot in his stomach. What if they didn't find anyone? What if they did? The voice came again, clearer this time, mingled with what sounded like muffled sobs. "Help. Please, someone help." They hurried toward the sound, and as they rounded a corner, the dim glow of a street lamp revealed a young woman kneeling on the ground, cradling a child in her arms. Panic surged through Jenna. The image reminded her too much of her losses, too much of the night Charlie had fallen ill. "Hey!" Tom called out, rushing forward. "What is going on? Can we help?" The woman looked up, her eyes wide and terrified. I lost my son. We were playing, and he ran ahead. He was right here," and now her words faltered as a fresh wave of tears streamed down her cheeks. Jenna's south heart clicked into place like a puzzle piece locking in, and she instinctively stepped forward. "What does he look like?" She could see the woman's face twist in anguish. "He was wearing a red shirt. He has curly hair." For a moment, time seemed to freeze. Jenna's mind raced. Thoughts of Charlie, of the joy and laughter he brought, flooded her consciousness. And now she felt that pull again, the same one that had led her to the vigil, a call to act when someone else desperately needed it. "Stay here. We'll help you find him," Michael said, determination in his tone. "Jenna, Tom, let us fan out." They quickly broke apart, scanning the surrounding area, hearts pounding. Jenna called out the boy's name, repeating it. "Lucas. Lucas, are you there?" Each echo of his name felt like a plea, the weight of it heavy in the air. Minutes felt like hours. Jenna's thoughts started to spiral. What if they didn't find him? What if it was too late? And then, just as doubt threatened to swallow her whole, she heard a small voice, muffled but unmistakable. "Mommy?" Her heart swelled, and she turned on her heel, running toward the direction of the sound. Tom was already there, crouched beside a small figure hugging a tree, the red shirt glowing under the dim light like a beacon. "I was so scared," the boy whimpered, staring up at Tom with tears in his big eyes. Relief rushed through Jenna like a tidal wave. She knelt beside the boy and pulled him into her arms, feeling his small body shake against hers. "You're okay now. You're safe," she whispered, tears mingling with his. The young mother rushed over, scooping her son up, her sobs now transforming into grateful cries. Jenna stepped back, feeling the warmth of the reunion wrap around her, a reminder of the power of community and healing. But deep inside, she felt a mix of joy and sadness. Would she ever feel that kind of completeness again? The night held much more than they imagined. What would happen next as they journeyed onward, carrying their shared burdens? What other stories awaited them in the shadows, and would they have the strength to face them together? The night air buzzed with palpable relief as the boy, Lucas, nestled tightly in his mother's arms, found solace in the warmth of her embrace. The gathering, once a bubble of laughter and light, was now a kaleidoscope of emotions, joy intertwined with grief and healing woven into the fabric of community. Jenna stood back, heart brimming with a complex mix of joy for the family and melancholy for her own loss. She felt Tom's presence beside her, a steadfast anchor in a world that often tossed them around like leaves in the wind. He turned to her, admiration shimmering in his eyes. "You were amazing, Jenna. You stepped up just when they needed you." "Yeah," she replied softly, her gaze drifting to the reunited family. I didn't expect to feel this way. It's like all the pain I carry suddenly found purpose." Michael and Angela approached, their compassionate eyes carved with understanding. In the dim light, it felt as if they, too, could sense the importance of what had just occurred. Michael placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. That was incredible. Really, Angela agreed. You took charge when it mattered most. You turned your pain into comfort for someone else. That's what Jake's legacy could be, sharing love and comfort through our stories. Jenna looked at them, feeling the weight of the evening settle more deeply within her. With a heart beating resolutely, she realized there was clarity now, a path carved through grief. This wasn't just about their losses anymore, it was about the importance of intertwining their stories, fostering connections, and creating spaces where the memories of their children could soar. Let us go back, Jenna whispered, glancing at the gathering, the flickers of candles reflecting hope in every face. Let us be part of it. They need to hear the stories. With a collective nod, they returned to the park, hearts synchronized in purpose. As they settled back into the crowd, a soft hum of conversations and laughter embraced them like a warm blanket. Holding hands with both the echo of her pain and the resilience forged through tragedy, Jenna felt pieces of herself knit back together. As the candlelight vigil began, they gathered around a makeshift memorial, a table draped in white cloth, adorned with photographs and drawings of children. The flickering candles danced with each whispering breeze, casting a gentle glow that illuminated the shadows of sorrow. One by one, families began to share stories, voices trembling but strong. The tales ranged from absurdity to heart-wrenching moments, each one a thread connecting the past to the present, reminding everyone of love lost and found. When it was Jenna's turn, she felt the collective breath of the crowd, the unyielding support wrapping around her like the arms of a family. My son, Charlie, taught me so much about courage, she began, her voice steadying with each word. He fought fiercely every day, but he also laughed beyond measure. When I lost him, I felt an emptiness like no other. I thought I would crumble under the weight of it. But being here tonight, witnessing the love we share, I know that his spirit lives on in all of us. We can honor their memories together. Tears flowed freely, but they were no longer just tears of sorrow, they were cathartic rivers of shared love and understanding. After her story, Michael stood up, his voice finding strength in the shared vulnerability. Jake loved baseball. He lived for it. And there were moments when I wished I could just video him cracking jokes in the dugout instead of lost in sorrow. Tonight, I want him to be remembered not just through our pain but through joy. With this setup, we're transforming heartache into something that could swing for hope and lift every child, ensuring they always feel seen. Strong murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd, heads nodding, hearts responding. With every story shared, every laughter lifted, the weight of grief felt slightly less burdensome. As the evening unfolded, the transformation in the air thickened, a palpable sense of a community reborn, stitched together through shared experiences. Jenna watched as the voices unified, a harmony emerging from the fading shadows of sorrow. Tom, Sarah, and Angela shared stories of courage too, drawing everyone in. Each narrative echoed the same message: the beauty of community, support, and the healing power of coming together. By the end of the night, they stood united under the starry sky, surrounded by flickering candles and heartfelt storytelling, a collective tapestry of love. Jenna looked at Michael, Angela, and the rest, recognizing the strength they had discovered in one another. Their journey had only just begun. This was merely the first step in creating a space where future stories could continue to flourish, nurturing one another through pain into purpose, and in that moment, as laughter and hope filled the air, Jenna felt a spark ignite within. This was a legacy worth building. Together, this was their pivotal moment for transformation. But now, dear friends, this is your turn for transformation. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that inspire growth and healing. Leave a like now if this story touched your heart and helped you feel less alone. I want to hear from you. Comment your thoughts, your feelings, your reactions about this powerful ending. And remember, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this transformation too. You need to support this community. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Join us in building this journey as a family.